going to learn from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, France, Spain, the Netherlands, Turkey, and the Dutch. But in saying all of that, the thing that was so beautiful about the African was he had a connection with God and his wonderful creation. And in doing that, he was able to survive. It was like asking himself, will I be a live dog or a dead lion? And here we are today.
Excuse me, sir.
One of the most important fundamental aspects of living on the plantation would be that of the praise house or the prayer house. When the European allowed the African to have a praise house, he thought that he had indoctrinated him in such a way to the King James Version of the Bible that he would not bring in his customs and his attitudes and his beliefs into what we now know as a Christian church. So that would be the clapping of hands. Y'all know how to do that, don't you? Pat, 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 pat. The stomping of the foot. Bump, bump, bump. I wish I had a drum. For you see, the European would not allow the African to bring instruments in. And sometimes not even the drum, especially the talking drum. The talking drum was a drum that went over the shoulder. The front of it, the hands would touch the front of it. But the importance of the talking drum was that it would talk to them. It was a call for war, a call for healing. It was a communication for the African. Then he didn't allow him to bring in, you know, we talk about West Virginia and all them, the hillbillies up in the mountains playing them banjos and things. They wouldn't have had a banjo if it hadn't been for the African. The first banjo, the first string, 5-string instrument was born in Africa. The piano born in Africa. The flute born in Africa. The piccolo born in Africa. But it makes sense. If we were first, everybody else came second. Don't that make sense? So that's why up until this day, they refer to us as the slave. But from this point on, I want y'all to learn to say the enslaved African. Because all of them were slaves, and all them Europeans that came over here, they didn't have nothing. They was running from Europe. And they came over here and did what they did, and y'all know what they did. I got to stop because I'm 76, and sometimes I just tell too much of the truth. They're just supposed to be today. I ain't giving a lecture. But the importance of the praise house is that in the praise house, it was the first place that the African could be by himself without the European. And so a lot of Africanisms would take place. Like black ladies, black mothers, black women, stand up and stand proud. In Africa, we took root because we were the first teachers.
Amen.
When you look at a civilization, you can tell about a civilization and it's dying by looking at its children. Hello, America. The men were the hunters and the providers, but the women were the first teachers. So therefore, in the black church, in the church that I grew up in, women ran the church. So often, I would hear criticisms for that. But that's what they did in Africa. Understand who you are. Don't allow anybody else to tell you who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. We are the first teachers, so therefore in the church, we ran the church. Women, stand proud. It wouldn't be a black church today if it wasn't for black females. Hello, somebody. Now, the praise house was a place for government. So if your husband wasn't acting right, you take him to the church. One of the most interesting stories that I ran into, I went to attended a funeral on St. Helena Island.
I'm sorry.
And you know, it's customary for everybody to stand up if you have something to say about the deceased. So one of the old deacons stood up and he said, I got something to say about the brother.
Oh, I'm great.
Everybody was waiting for him to say, well, you know, he teethed my hog last year. Y'all ain't do nothing about it. So I teethed his hog soon as he died. It was a place where you talked about your day in and day out. Some of the songs they sang had an African beat. My Lord. And it talked about the trouble they found themselves to be in. One of those songs is way down, way down, way down, way down in Egypt land, way down, way down, way down, way down in Egypt land. I had a mother, she's way down in Egypt land, and I had a father, he's way down in Egypt land, way down, way down, way down, way down in Egypt land, and I plant the okra way down in Egypt land, and I plant the cotton way down in Egypt land, and I plant the rice way down in Egypt land. I say way down, way down, way down in Egypt land. Those are the songs that they sang. Out of that as we moved and transitioned on. You know, the black church would go on to develop the praise house to the black church, developing our colleges and our schools. Amen to that?
Amen.
I think we need to go back to that. I just left DeSantis country. And I don't know what country you in. I don't know what state you in. But they seem to be following that same rule. They teach Japanese, they teach French, they teach this and ba-ba boo bang and bit bit bat bam. But by 1740, 2/3 of the population of South Carolina would have been the African. Anything that South Carolina holds true to its South Carolina heritage is African. From the rice, from the gumbo. Gumbo is okra. Any and everything that's shag in Myrtle Beach. Charleston's opera, Porgy and Bess. Anything that South Carolina holds true and it was pushed forward through being alone in the praise house. The praise house allowed us to be human beings again. Not animals, not chattel, but men and women It allowed us to make decisions for ourselves. Good decisions for ourselves. Whenever you go past an AME or an AME Zion or CME, hold your head up. Those are the black churches that separated themselves from the white church. We got to think about ourselves. We got to go back to that old landmark so I can stay in the service of the Lord. It all starts in the praise house, finding out who we are, where we should be, having a constant communication with God. Before the African came here, it was just one deity. Oh, they believed in the sun and the moon and all that too. But it was just God. He didn't know anything about Jesus from Nazareth. But that's okay. Time brings about changes. But if you don't have an identity of a God that serves you and not a God that has been identified by somebody else, we have been preparing for heaven and everybody is still on earth. That's the praise house. The praise house wanted us to connect with a higher God, to develop a world that works for us as we work together for others. Does that make sense? So when you think of the praise house, ladies, stand tall. When you think of the praise house, educators, don't forget that it started out of the praise house into the black church. When you think of women and the place that black women hold in the communities, hold your head up. Stop taking the narrative, the American narrative, that we always angry. Well, hell, if you got to work all the time and the man try to keep your husband in prison and locking up your sons or killing your skin, if you ain't angry, something the hell wrong with you.
Oh, I'm going to have to hold you back because I'm at a festival.
Pick up your God and make your God work for you.
Hold you back.
Just like our ancestors did, and that's why we're here today. That is the power of the praise house. Amen?
Oh, okay.
Don't you forget the praise house.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Don't forget the praise house. Some people call it the prayer house. How many of you remember, I'm going to go sit down, I'm finished now. How many of you remember prayer meetings? Prayer meetings started in the praise house. What about teachers' meetings? Oh yeah, they started teaching each other how to read. Oh yeah. So what am I saying? The betterment of the African would take place first where? Where did it? Call it whatever you want. Praise or prayer house. Thank you so much.